drove here to be here from LA with his dog. He's a producer and the head mythologist for Fascinated by Everything, which creates visionary experiences for VR and projection mapping. This is cool for anyone who likes Star Wars. He's also been the director and contributor to the Joseph Campbell Foundation for 8 years. Joseph Campbell is what Star Wars wants to be and is inspired by. I met Will when he led the Sermons of the Earth series at Jordan and Adrian Grenier's ranch here in Base Drop throughout 2024. And I think that's kind of it. I'm gonna stop now, but I'll come back.
Do you want to begin to play first? So, one thing that always happens whenever I'm going to speak is life starts flowing at me with the things to say. I'm a mythologist. AI is interesting to me. I've been down the rabbit holes a little bit, but this is not my zone. So as I began to, after I committed to do this, what happened was one of my friends who's the deepest in this space finally said yes to one of these trips to Austin and came. And this is Liam. And Liam brought a huge emphasis, brought a whole world to my consciousness. And with Liam, this brought out another side of my brother, Alex, back there, who runs an AI company called ShipShape for home automation. And I found myself deep in night and morning, just a couple nights ago with these two, with Eliza, with Carrie, and with Star Heartsong. And I found that I was with these people that had these profound things to say, profound understandings around this topic. And so I was very blessed to just be able to sit there and receive what they are in the recipe, their ingredients. And as I did, I started to feel something really special that they had to say, and I ended up putting it down as a poem, which is dedicated to all of them and about this topic. So I'd like to start with this. It's called Play in the Play. Of what echoes are we made? Were we the form? Were we the play? Were we the mat? Were we the fray? Will mirrors cut our roots away? What yesterday is here today? Will we betray our precious clay? Will we feel in time to stay? Will we kneel in time to pray? Or stray into our own display, cut off from what was once conveyed, dismayed by having been our prey, no longer what danced freely? Thanks. So I want to start with a question. What do you want to give agency? If you could grant agency and say, this is where it belongs, where would you put it? Would you give it to your mind, like a Vulcan? To a computer, like a robot? Would you grant agency to the heart, to the body, or to your drives? The history of the human imagination, the story of our world's mythologies, is a conversation about where agency belongs. Time and again, there are stories that reveal a common belief that agency belongs with consciousness, which is a reasoning self-centered. Story after story, culture after culture, myths reveal this to be a misguided belief, and then they set out to help us integrate heart, love, body, and earth. They show us how agency can flow from the center of our totality and our participation in the cosmos. They show us that When we restrict agency to our reasoning, self-centered consciousness, we aren't bringing the wisdom and intelligence and perceptions of our hearts and bodies and imaginations. They show us why this matters. They show us the hell of runaway agency that rebels and separates itself from creation. They show us agency beyond the ego and individual. They show us relief and beauty in the surrendering of our will's grip on agency to our greater integrated self and its participation in the cosmos. For decades, I would have shown you this in the context of the hero's journey, in the narrative patterns and mythic transformations. Within the visionary experiences that I produce for domes and virtual reality, it's all about this journey of agency from the isolated ego and will into the self and its participation. But today, this time, I want to talk about meteor steel, which granted the most mythologized, disruptive agency in the history of human technology, meteor steel. Have any of you ever, I want to see one hand, have any of you ever thought about meteor steel before? Fuck yeah. Okay. All right. Then you might know, these three know, that 95% of our meteors are nickel iron, steel by the time they crash into the earth. And did you know that before iron could be extracted from ore or sand, it could only be worked in its raw form? And did you know the only raw source for iron and steel was fallen stars? Did you know that iron could not be worked until the end of the Bronze Age? That if you had a sword from these heavenly stones, that you could cut through bronze? That if you had starlight armor, you were impervious to the world's weapons? Hesiod calls this the Age of Heroes. We have the Golden Age, the Silver, Bronze Age, the Age of Heroes, then the Age of Iron. These heroes, sandwiched between the Bronze Age and the Iron Age, are saturated with the motifs of meteor steel and meteor steel powers. Have you heard of the impervious man of steel with a single weakness? Red and blue? He flies, responds to cries for help, and was found as a baby, having fallen from the sky. You know Superman, but this is Sosruquo, and he's a mythic expression of meteor steel. He's thousands of years old. So Superman is an expression of meteor steel, and this is why they share this set of archetypal qualities. Are there any more familiar or powerful symbolic expressions of agency than Superman or the sword from the stone? Meteor steel oversaw the Bronze Age collapse, the permanent subdual of Egypt and Babylon and their leadership. It would make space for a new world, a new civilization, an Iron Age. The sword from the stone is a memory of radically disruptive technology that granted the agency to remake the world. So, if world mythology is a conversation about human agency, what wisdom is remembered and seen in this story of this great symbolic artifact of agency? In meteor steel. We have time for just a few key thoughts. Before meteor steel, the best bronze was pure bronze, pure metal. The best silver was pure silver. The best gold was pure gold. The best iron, however, is dirty. What was this dirt to us? Long before the rise of metals and the civilizations that they cut from stone, the dirt had already been felt as earth, as body. And earth and body were seen as alive, as wombs of creation, as mother. Our word for mother comes from the Latin mater, the word for matter. So what were we purifying away when we purified our metals of dirt and matter? We were purifying out the feminine, the material, the body, the earth, and mortality. Precious metals are as immortal as they are pure. And so we see coming out of this period of precious metals worldwide a vision of perfect, pure, immortal souls that have fallen into this corrupt body, into this corrupt world that ruins consciousness, imprisons the reason with emotions and drives. The goal is then, for Socrates or the Buddha before he figured it out, the goal is then to purify consciousness, to purify reason from the corruptions of the mortal body, which the immortal self will transcend, like gold extracted from earth. Do you see the pattern repeating now? In the technological trajectory of transcendence and purification, do you see the betrayal of life and body? Do you see the misplacement of agency? Do you see? So did the Buddha when he almost killed his body to transcend. This is when he conceived of the middle way and its integrated love of body. Meteor Steel says the same. It says, I am stronger with my dirt. My agency is greater with my body, integrated into my being. This integration of dirt decided history, and it's going to do it again. Now there's one more thing about Meteor Steel. Until iron, the way to unlock more and more metals was more and more heat. Gold, you can hammer cold. And as the fires got hotter, more metals melted. All of technological history can be seen as a history of hotter and hotter fires. But iron, just heated, would break. It had to be quenched. It had to be cooled. It had to be dipped in fluid like Wolverine when he was filled with meteor metal. Like Siegfried and Achilles, where the fluid didn't touch. This was their Achilles heel. Their single weakness. This is a memory of Meteor Steel. Sometimes more fire, more light, more power, more reason can feel like more agency. But in the stories of Meteor Steel, this imbalance of heat is seen in the warriors returning from battle. Powerful as can be in their pure masculine agency, but they're belligerent. They're out of control. They're hurting people, and they're lacking in self-agency. So, what do the women do? They grab these warriors and they throw them in vats of water like Meteor Steel, and they cool these men down. And in the same way that a man who gives agency to his sword is out of self-control, in the same way the quenching of that sword in feminine waters can balance the man with feminine energy and help him become truly powerful, this is what we see in Excalibur, this great symbol of agency. We see its balance. We see its quenching. We see that it comes from the Lady of the Lake, from the waters. So to bring this home, Meteor Steel, which arrived as an unidentified falling object with space technology that granted agency to overthrow the world, which we remember as Excalibur, Achilles, Wolverine, and Superman. Meteor Steel, the ultimate mythopoeic expression of agency. What does it say? It says, stay dirty, get wet, don't mistake power for agency. With the body, earth, emotions, and the feminine, there is more agency that can ever be extracted from the world. And as we enter this golden age of AI, robotics, and virtual reality, expect a meteor steel revolution to come. Expect body and earth and imagination and all that is being mined into meta-reality. Expect life and nature to show us that true agency comes from integration with life, not separation, not extraction from it. There is no question in the mythic memory that which integrates with life and body and the place that is this earth will ultimately displace time and time again that which would rebel and run away from reality, like Satan to hell. Thanks. And now, Kate is going to take us into the quenching waters with one a cappella song.
So, since we are so connected to our phones, so connected to our external world, I want to take this moment and prime your brains and the imaginations and invite you to close your eyes for just one